Good night, viewers. This is Kemar Stuart, your co-host, and welcome to another evening of Alternate Views. I want to say how happy I am to be here with you. Yet another Thursday, October the 10th of 2024, streaming live from Bridgetown, Barbados. So I want to welcome you all to this evening's program. I am your host, Kemar Stuart. Let me know if you can hear me well before we get going down the road this evening on Alternate Views, the podcast. So we have some early Patreon supporters. We have Square 4, who's early saying, looking forward to and hearing these young and brilliant minds, especially Kimari's thinking. Sheepdog is saying, might be a tad bit late for me this evening. I'll see, have a great stream. I feel an affinity to ye Barbadians. God bless ye. I will have to make contact someday in the near future. So thank you very much, Sheepdog. We're very much open to having those discussions. We could speak privately on WhatsApp or so. So I'm going to put my contact information on there for you and for anybody on the program really who wants to chat with me in private. You're very much welcome to do so. So welcome to you, Sheepdog, all the way from Ireland. It's very good to have our European guests on the live, as always. It's me, is saying good evening, all. Janine Butcher, welcome. She's saying alternate views, welcome. All the way from St. Philip, Janine, thank you very much for tuning in to Alternate Views. Wendy Ford Griffith, welcome to you, Wendy. Good evening, I hope you're going well. Welcome to Alternate Views, Lemuel Tell. Thank you very much. Esther Blue is saying good night, everyone, and the Alternate Views. So thank you very much, Esther Blue. Camila Lewis, welcome, Esther Blue, and all the others. Thank you. Heath Cliff, welcome to you, Heath. Very good to have you. Calvin McKenzie, welcome, Calvin. Very good to have you in Alternate Views. I miss Sir Alfred Benjamin from the stream. Tyrone Nurse and the other Patriot supporters you usually come on, so we're going to give them a time to jump in this evening. So I want to welcome you, alternate viewers, onto the program. And without further delay, I want to get the other hosts in on the program this evening. As you know, our loyal host is Ramon Goodman. So we're going to get Ramon and the other loyal host, Malissa Howard. We want to get them in without further delay. So let me get Ramon in. We hoping that he knows his mic. Yes. And then we have Melissa. Um, Melissa should be in and should be fine. Audio
Hi, good
fine,
night,
video
everyone.
fine. Yes.
Good night,
So
everybody. Can you hear me?
Melissa is saying good night, alternate viewers.
Yeah, I
Yes,
can
we
hear
can
you.
hear you
You
loud
can
and
hear me.
clear.
Beautiful.
You
Beautiful.
can hear him, Melissa.
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Lovely.
So welcome, co-host to Alternate Views. Very good to have you. Yeah, another Thursday looking so bright and vibrant. Uh, welcome to the program. Happy to have you this evening. So we have early out. Uh, ooh. Okay, so we have early out some supporters on the stream. We have 40 persons so far. So we're going to ask those persons on Alternate Views to like and to share the program. Last week we had a very good program with former Minister Donald Innes. We're still getting reviews up until now about the quality of that interaction with Donville. So I want to personally applaud Ramon and Melissa for participating in that discussion and for asking some very vital, pivotal questions to Mr. Ennis. The alternative viewers thoroughly enjoyed you guys, how you articulated yourselves as young people. So I want to give you a loud round of applause.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Big gratitude to the viewers and
yeah,
to the supporting cast. Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah.
yes. So we have Mildred Bain in. Thank you, Mildred, for tuning in, and welcome to Alternate Views. This evening we do not have a guest in studio. Uh, we as young people are going to interact. However, if anyone wishes to participate in tonight's program, we'll signal you when we're going to open the lines for anyone who wants to come on and contribute. Right. So this is not a talk at forum. This is a talk with forum. So we're opening the floor to the audience, to the viewers, to jump in and participate later on as we develop the conversation. Now, let me say a good night to the lifelong learning this evening. So I hope you saw the early advertisement. We're going to try to get that back up quickly. But good evening to the lifelong learning, which is a human development foundation. And you're going to hear a lot more about lifelong learning along the way and what it's all about. But lifelong learning is definitely a charitable organization who is seeking to help enact and develop the human potential of Barbadians. And I hope you stay tuned for what lifelong learning has to offer to Barbadians and to the Caribbean and to the world. So, without further delay, uh, we're going to take a different format for tonight's show. And Ramon is going to be our lead anchor tonight. So, we are going to hand over to Ramon to do his thing. And I'll definitely be here to ask him some probing questions tonight as we hear from him what is bothering him about the brain drain in Barbados and bothering him about the brain drain in the wider uh, Caribbean. So, Ramon, over to you, sir.
Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure. Good night to all the viewers. This is one of the topics that obviously is dear to me, and I'm sure a lot of younger people they would have some concerns about it as well too. You work hard, you go to UE and so forth, you come back out, and you're expecting some level of income, some level of funds to live, to survive, so forth. And we found that during a couple of years back and on to present, that has become increasingly difficult. And tonight we can have a conversation about it, right? Because it bugs me, and it bugs, I'm sure, a lot of the other panelists, along with a lot of viewers. So tonight we are going to again have that conversation. Conversation might be difficult, but we can have that conversation tonight. Right. So I want to start off by playing a clip of Mr. Edmund Hinkson in Parliament. I want to start off by doing that. So Kemar, you can go ahead, and if you have that ready, you can go ahead and play.
Mr. Speaker, because the world, the whole profile of individuals is to travel and seek what they consider better opportunities outside of their country. And but obviously, if we make Barbados more attractive to young persons, especially, we will get more Barbadians coming back home rather than wanting to stay in the northern hemisphere. When more productive people are in Barbados, our economy will grow. One of the challenges will be to ensure that these people, working age and who are working, pay the income tax and pay the NIS. And that is very important because there are too many people that feel that they are doing well by cheating government and not paying income tax.
Yes,
Okay.
Ramon. So there you
Yes.
have the
Yes.
clip.
Yes. Now obviously, if you didn't understand a lot of what he was talking about, he was actually mentioning and corroborating the point I was making initially. Right, there is some
Do
level
you want me to replay the clip once more for from the beginning?
that is correct.
That
Yes, just in case.
yes.
Yes, just
So
in case.
just wait, just let me fix that for you. So we're gonna get that going. So today's conversation, as Ramon said, is about brain drain. So the clip that we're viewing is of Edmund Hinkson, a member of parliament who was speaking about efforts to combat brain drain. So that is the essence of the clip for those persons who may be following. So we're going to play it from the beginning so that you hear essentially what point he's trying to make, and then we proceed to critique.
I know that that's not such an easy task, Mr. Speaker, because the whole profile of individuals is to travel and seek what they consider better opportunities outside of their country. And but obviously, if we make Barbados more attractive to young persons, especially, we will get more Barbadians coming back home rather than wanting to stay in the northern hemisphere. When more productive people are in Barbados, our economy will grow. One of the challenges will be to ensure that these people, working age and who are working, pay the income tax and pay the NIS. And that is very important because there are too many people that feel that they are doing well by cheating government and not paying income tax.
Yes. So go ahead, Ramon.
Yeah. So obviously, he would have corroborated what I initially talked about when we first started. Right. There is a level of brain drain in a serious way, and obviously, people go overseas. They get the education. We train them. We educate them, etc. And they're now going overseas, and a lot of the innovative and uh, fresh minds, fresh, brilliant minds. They are utilizing their expertise and so forth. Is being utilized by the countries overseas. Right? So, in terms of income taxes, obviously, working here will provide income taxes, which would actually, fund the the government's pocket as well too. So it's a big challenge here, and I know it was a short clip. He didn't make any mention because obviously the clip was short, but he didn't make any mention of what he plans to do or what are the solutions. He made mention of the challenges, but in terms of the solutions and so forth, well, like he gave a broad. He said we got to make more opportunities, etc. But in terms of those specific opportunities, that wasn't made mention of based on that short clip, right? So it's something that we have to discuss. We got to think about because a lot of very younger people they are just leaving us and leaving us in a serious way, right? And that is something that we gotta look at and find ways that we can keep the younger people uh, in Barbados as it stands now. Right? Or they could come back and obviously uh, they can come back and obviously contribute to our economy in a serious way. Right? So I just want to move on to just a little excerpt here. Something I actually was reading widening class divide in Barbados as the brain drain and bureaucratic stagnation intensifies. Right. Now it reads, Barbados, once celebrated for its relatively high standard of living and educational achievements in the Caribbean, is now witnessing a growing class divide, exacerbated by brain drain and bureaucratic stagnation. This issue is deepening socioeconomic disparities as talented young professionals leave the island in search of better opportunities. While outdated bureaucratic practices prevent the injection of fresh ideas, as I mentioned, and innovation into the country's development. As a result, opportunities for the younger generation are shrinking, and the country's progress is being stifled. You need those innovative minds or fresh innovative, because they're going to see it, obviously see it, ways of doing things, systems, etc., in a different way, right? And the only thing that is constant is change, as we know, right? So obviously, based on the clip, they are also seeing a brain drain in a serious way. And again, this conversation, we gotta have this conversation so we can find out and figure out ways that we can, or suggestions that we can keep the younger people in our country to obviously share their fresh thoughts and abilities. Right. So the article then also moves on, and it says there is an actual crisis. The exodus of skilled, educated Barbadians, particularly the youth, has become a major problem in recent years. This brain drain is fueled by several factors, right? And it goes on and it mentions some of the factors. And as I mentioned, lack of opportunities, many young professionals, especially in fields like technology, finance, research, find that there are few avenues for career advancement in Barbados. High-paying, knowledge-based jobs are scarce, and the job market often favors connections over merit. Connections over merit, right? So based on this little piece, the last piece especially, Melissa, based on your ears on the ground and so forth, what are your thoughts on this last piece of information here from this article?
Okay, when you mean the last piece, what? Be
Okay.
specific.
They mention a problem. They mention a high-paying, knowledge-based jobs are scarce, and the job market often favors connections over merit.
All right. Well, as you can see, the most of the high-paying jobs are being offered now to consultants that are coming from overseas, and our local labor force is being overlooked for these positions. And the young persons that are now leaving university are being offered mostly jobs that aren't even connected to what they studied at school. So basically, we have a large group of young individuals who have basically spent, let me say, 4 years at university, and what they have learned, their knowledge is not being utilized right now. Um, you mentioned technology and the finance research as areas of study that are being highlighted. If you look at UE, you have a lot of students who are studying management and finance, which is so if you have, let me say, 400 students every year studying management and finance, when they leave UE, how many jobs are going to be available to them in that sector? So how are you going to fix that issue? Are you going to tell students, only a certain amount are going to study management and finance going forward, and encourage them to study in other areas? Do you see that as a way going forward?
Well, no, I was actually my ears were actually to the ground. Somebody would have mentioned that that you put a cap on the amount of people that do a particular subject, but then you know, the argument would be then the people who are disadvantaged and so forth, their life, so say they had a lifelong dream of being a banker or a manager or whatever the case may be, that is squashed, that squashed really and truly, and it might be unfair to them. But, the person then obviously would have rebutted and said, well, the best of the best will be chosen. But no, I wouldn't go in that direction really and truly. I think that the best way to deal with it, to handle it, is to create more opportunities. Right? Create more opportunities, and they mention in a serious way, uh, favors over merit. Right? And I mean that would continue to happen. Yes, but we gotta look at, because the person I also mentioned, and we were having discussion, long discussion. So you say you have two spots, two positions in a company, for manager or for whatever opportunities available. There are about 10,000 people. So say management, right? There are about 10,000 people coming out of you that is vying for that one position, So, some people will be left behind, and the implications of obviously people being left behind. They're going to try to find opportunities overseas. We also got to look at not only the lack of opportunities, right? We got to look at also the global competition there is out there, right? Many young Barbadians are being lured to countries like United States, Canada, and United Kingdom, where they can leverage their skills in more competitive and innovative environments. These countries offer higher salaries, better resources, and a clear path to career growth, something that is increasingly hard to find at home. That too can be obviously an argument as well too, right? There's a bigger market out there, bigger market, and they look for opportunities. Thing. But as we go on, right, I'm going to point out something that is also going to rebut this particular statement here in the excerpt, right? I'm going to rebut it, right? Because, and again, I don't want let the secret out, but I'm going to rebut it as we go on as well too. But the markets out there more competitive, and that could be a case why the youngsters they're looking to go overseas and spread their wings in a serious way, right? And the article goes on. It says, as young talent leaves, Barbados loses out on perspectives, fresh perspective. As I spoke about earlier in the session as well too. Innovative ideas necessary to adapt to the modern global economy. This exodus has long-term implications, as it not only impacts the immediate workforce, but also
I think Ramon is stuck.
Yeah, it seems so.
Yeah, well, you could go ahead, Melissa, until he comes back in.
Okay. But we can use Neil Harper as an example of a very talented individual in cybersecurity who has been awarded by many countries worldwide, and for some reason he was overlooked in his own country, and he's making a big impact in the entire world. And even as recent, he made recommendations to the government, and they were still ignoring him despite all the accolades that he has. So how how are we going to encourage our own to make a positive impact in our own country? Kemar.
Yeah, well, I quite agree with you. Neil Harper, from my understanding, uh, I saw that he's very educated. Um, his expertise are used globally, and Barbados feels the benefit from that expertise even when it's offered for. But that's definitely no shocker because just look how we treat our athletes who represent us on the national stage. Um, Not just athletes, but sports people in general. Uh, what happens to is when there's, I guess, politics involved, um, classism and racism and other isms that we suffer from as a small Caribbean society, then it becomes more clear why persons like Neil Harper will not be considered um, for a man that has that level of qualifications, and you're formalizing a ministry of information and a ministry of technology, and we're seeking to grow a digital and turn Barbados into a completely digital society. That means that all of our information is online. We had the hacking of the Barbados Revenue Authority and some other public institutions, and here you have Neil Harper offering his expertise to the government to protect Barbadians, but it is being ignored, and persons like Neil will not feel motivated to want to move back to Barbados uh, if his talents cannot be recognized and he be also compensated for the talents because we have a lot of square pegs and round holes at home. So, a clear example, this hack happened and it took Neil Harper to come out and explain from a professional level what happened, but still we have a chief digital or chief information officer or so, right? So we could even put in a little political jab and say that the chief digital officer could have easily involved themselves in a political matter when members of the one political party, meaning members of the DLP, wrote to the data commissioner asking them to intervene in the internal election process. Their office had time to intervene into a political matter to do with internal voting, but the office could not intervene to protect Barbadians from a complete digital hack, causing our information to be exposed and sold on the dark web. So, Melissa, is a matter of priorities of the government in simple language.
So I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I
Beautiful.
can hear you.
Okay. So I just want to ask a question to the panel now, and also to the viewers as well too. Do you think is a case where the market is not big enough, or a lot of political favors overrides the situation? What do you think?
Um, the market is there, but I think people are being ignored. Political reasons, yeah, are could be connected to the higher echelon of society. So I believe it's more they're being ignored because of political reasons.
Because in my experience, when I think a lot of Barbadians as well too, when they heard that the guy studied in Canada or worked in Canada or worked in England for years, for some reason, that's a boost in their resume. I don't know if you found that situation, or Kimar could obviously comment on it, and the viewers as well too. But for some reason, homegrown and our infant education seems to be, or infant wherever you work in our country, in our particular country, seem to be overlooked in terms of you know boosting your resume. And that's a serious thing because You know, people will become extremely frustrated, and the next thing what are they gonna do? Let me look for opportunities outside. I done with this here. I tired with this here, right? So, like, if it's a situation where the market isn't big enough, that is a viable excuse to a certain extent too, because you can obviously expand the markets. You got a lot of thinkers up there. But if it's a situation where our homegrown people, can't get a little pay, well, that is a big, 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 big issue in a serious way. A big issue presently,
Yeah.
and they give a big issue going forward too as well. Too.
Right.
Oh, and
Well, I
you can
want
see,
to. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, the market is there, and you can see the individuals leaving to other countries, while countries are already developed, and their input to these countries are even propelling the countries even more. And we are still deemed as a developing nation, and our country isn't going anywhere. So our human capital is leaving our shores, helping other countries, while our country isn't going anywhere.
Well, as part of the Caribbean Progress Studies Institute and their mandate, uh, it speaks to more radical economic policies. And one of the policies are that labor markets and job markets should be more liberal and flexible in terms of hiring practices. So, as opposed to being more nationalist in terms of giving locals the jobs who may not have the requisite skill or the skill that match international standards, and countries signing on to the the World Trade Organization, the International Labor Organization, and other labor institutions which countries agree to formalize and merge uh, the labor markets around the world, which in simple terms allows qualified persons wherever they're at in the world to come in and take up jobs. So, for example, the British Virgin Islands, you have non-nationals going into the country and becoming like commissioner of police, deputy commissioner of police, and occupying high-level public servant jobs, although they're not locals. Now, in Barbados, if we had to hire a non-national to become police commissioner here, we're looking for it, right? So, how does a country balance being a part of the international world, keeping up with international standards, uh, keeping up to the modern day way of labor practices, right? And still be able to promise uh, and deliver, not just promise, but promise and deliver jobs to Barbadians when they're opening up job markets to all and sundry across the world to allow for inward migration, people who could earn higher uh, salaries. And remember, taxation is charged as a percentage of your salary. So the higher the salary, um, the higher the tax collection. But here where governments become corrupt now, Ramon and Melissa, is that they allow these high level workers to come into countries and then label them as expats, expatriates, and then they're allowed to operate within the country tax free, and then allowed to repatriate their salaries back home to host countries, and Barbados does not benefit. So that is active discussion going on right now in the Caribbean Progress Studies Institute. So I am putting my question to you guys, and I would specifically want to hear from you, Ramon, as you are the brainchild of this topic, brain train.
Yeah, well, currently, well, I can give some staggering figures first, right? 60% of people coming out um, of these tertiary level institutions, sorry, 60% they're leaving Barbados to seek opportunities elsewhere. Remittances. Remember, we spoke about remittances. I think a couple shows ago. Only make up 1.3% of our GDP. So they're leaving, right? Based on the stats there, they're leaving. And the amount of money they're sending back, or whatever the case may be, isn't substantial. So that is a huge problem. But that's stats. That's the statistics for it, right? Now, one thing in terms of you gotta make sure you have all your stats together and so forth, and balance find balance. Again, you do not want to disadvantage anyone to pursue their dream and so forth, but there must be some type of balance. When your stats, find out how many leaving, but you do know, right? I mean, what can we do for you to keep you here, right? The ones obviously that are bent on leaving, well, they will obviously pursue and go beyond that, and they will take the opportunity. But obviously, some of the brightest and so forth, they want to keep, big or try to formulate some form of opportunity for them here. There must be a balance, because if you look at them numbers, 60%, 60% of the younger, brighter minds leaving.
Where are you quoting the figures from, if you know me?
Okay, that's no problem. Yes, I see here the Barbados today. They had an article, the 9th of October, the 9th of October 2024. Barbados today.
You could share your screen if you wish,
All right, let's see.
So that we could see clearly. In the meantime, Melissa, you
Yeah,
uh
let me see if I can share my screen
comment.
here.
Yeah, to answer you, Kemar, me personally, I don't think Barbados is big enough, has a big enough market to be implementing international hiring standards, trying to promise people from other countries jobs when there are so many persons here who are struggling and can't find employment. Um, right now in Barbados, the cost of living is so high that a lot of persons are depressed, contemplating suicide on a daily basis, and half of them that half of the persons that are depressed and contemplating suicide are jobless. So what are we offering our own? No, what job opportunities are we creating for our people?
Agreed.
I think that we should be pleasing our people before we can please others.
Mm.
Trying to get the actual article
Right.
up.
Hey,
Actual article.
I agree with Melissa. However, we are a country that is now a republic, right? We went through independence, and we had governments, both governments really. We really had two governments, the BLP and the DLP in Barbados, and they both practice eh, deficit financing, where government's policy was indeed to borrow to lead development, and part of borrowing to do that development, obviously there will be some level of work involved, which becomes public work. So the public service of Barbados, as you know, many people like government jobs, or the perceived safety of government jobs. Therefore, we had a massive expansion of government jobs. That was 1994 to 2008. That would have been during Onafa's reign as prime minister. That is the highest record of
government issued jobs ever in the history of Barbados. Mhm. So it increases the wage bill of Barbados. But if you look at it now from that is the economic explanation. If you look at it from the political angle, persons will say, well, this particular party got me a government job, right?
Mhm.
Um, when you had a change of government, therefore a change of policy, we had, the export or deportation, sorry, of some non-nationals who were perceived to be taking up Barbadian jobs. Um, and then there was a policy that says Barbados for Barbadians, right? But as of late, we are seeing policies where internationally uh, qualified persons are coming in to head the public service in different areas. You mentioned about consultants, yes. So the development of the consulting economy, which the IMF is on record saying to countries to be very careful and cautious with, as consultant pay usually leaks back out of the country and therefore not necessarily a major benefit to uh, economies. Also, you have the emergence of vital industries, the nursing, where you have uh, right now a massive influx of Ghanaian nurses into the Barbadian economy, but vice versa, you have a lot of Barbadian nurses actually leaving the shores of Barbados for greener pastures in America and further Europe. So
Mhm.
I want to ask though, what would incentivize not a person or a youngster to leave Barbados, but what would incentivize anybody to want to come to Barbados for work?
Very interesting question. I am not aware of the packages that are being offered to these individuals, but could be a higher pay from what they are accustomed receiving from their home. The the environment in Barbados, the sun, the beach, the atmosphere, the parties, the relaxed um, setting. Um, but the cost of living here is very high, so I don't know. I don't know what's being offered in the packages.
Yeah. Ramon?
Um, we are known to be friendly. Uh, that is one thing we could boast about. Known to be. We there might be want to be amongst some of the most educated people. That might be something that they find interesting. They find encouraging. But other than that, we need, as I said, we need to create more opportunities. We got to look at skills. Create more jobs where skills hands are necessary. Right? Where hands are necessary, that is very important. I know we do a lot of math, we do a lot of English. I sound like a stick record, but we got to step outside of that. And currently, based on what I'm seeing, we are still going down that path. And I think Melissa would have mentioned, and I definitely agree with her. And not something as simple as, believe it or not, video games. Playing video games. And we look at that. We would look at that type of employment, and we would look at it and scoff at it. But we got to open up. We got to open up some more industries in Barbados to encourage people to stay here, at least, right? And before we go for it, I just want to obviously, for some reason there's some issue technical difficulty here with sharing this particular document, right? But I just want to read it, right? It says an embarrassing statistic, right? The World Bank's study on immigration captured in measuring the international mobility of skilled workers shows that Barbados is one of the few countries on earth where most of its country, I think, its tertiary educated population. The consistent figure was over 60%. Over 60%. Over 60%. And to put that shockingly, the high number in context, only 12 other countries in this whole entire world had a higher brain drain than Barbados. So something ain't right. And it has been going on for a very long. Something is wrong. And as I said, I can share I can actually read another article too. It's going to be shocking as well too. But I don't want to. I want to leave that as the conversation goes on, right? Because that is also going to be fairly shocking as well too, right? But I just want to say that. So something is going on. It's not good. And I don't know if it's being addressed in a serious way, or if we say, what, let them go along. Let them go along with the business. Me, with my older way of thinking and so forth, I can steer the ship here, right? I can steer the ship. But that, as I said, the only thing that is constant is change. Change needed to move forward. Change is needed to move forward. So as I said, the brain drain situation, I'm very serious where that is concerned.
Okay. Well, I want to ask you, Ramon. We had we speak about brain drain from the perspective of people, right? But I want to look at migration of not people this time, but migration of resources, right? And migration of capital and money. Barbados saw a massive migration of Trinidadian capital into Barbados. Today we have the Royal Bank of Trinidad and Tobago in Barbados. We have Massey. We have Ashley Furniture. And we see Collins Pharmacy, I believe, uh, gone over to Trinidadian hands. A lot of the car companies that we had here went over to Trinidadian ownership, right? Uh, and you had a massive amounts of capital migrating into Barbados, right? Now that changed obviously the economic landscape of Barbados when you have an emergence of new players, new power players with capital in the mix with locals as well. Um, but it changed the right, as somebody said, Republic Bank, and those are just a few of the Trinidadian owned companies that exist in the Barbados economy. Now, seemingly, Barbados seems to be the place that allows capital to come in, set up an enterprise, and produce what I call wage labor to be able to increase the wealth of persons like the Trinidadian capital, where they are able to employ massive amounts of workers simultaneously, right? And also offer a higher level of wage in some instances than a Barbadian company would. So therefore you have competition in the business world for people's loyalty, job loyalty, XYZ, whatever. Now, if you don't want to say it, I have to, but I want to know how you perceive migration of capital into Barbados, and I guess give you the example of Trinidad. I also want to know how you perceive migration of capital from Barbados going out in the outer world to do what other countries basically did uh, with us.
Well, in my opinion, obviously, they're coming here, they're providing jobs and so forth, which can, help the economy, etc., etc. In terms of no, and I see nothing wrong with that, obviously. Right? I see nothing wrong with The question remains in terms of the Barbadian businesses. Um, how are we as people looking? How are the entrepreneurs? How are they getting through in terms of actually building a business in Barbados, a viable business in Barbados? Right. That's the question. How is it a situation? Is the environment conducive for entrepreneurship for Barbadian businesses? That is the question. And why are Barbadian businesses then obviously selling obviously their particular business to the outside uh, countries? That's another question. Is it a situation where the entrepreneurs in Barbados, people who would have built businesses in Barbados, if they said, you know what, this is too difficult, let me sell, because a lot of Barbadian companies would have obviously sold to outside entities as well too. And the other question is to uh, how is it that the how is it that is it so difficult? Is it so difficult to obviously build business overseas? Do we have a lot of businesses that are Barbadian run and go overseas? That's another question.
All right. I believe it comes down to the strength of our dollar in the Caribbean. On on paper and in theory, our dollar is supposed to be one of the strongest in the Caribbean. So it's going to be very difficult to see businessmen picking up and leaving Barbados and going to Trinidad, Guyana, or Jamaica and starting a business, because when the money leaves those countries and come back to Barbados, it may deem as a loss in their eyes. Now, trying to get in the international market may be even more difficult. A lot of paperwork, a lot of red tape to go through. But I believe it comes down to the strength of our dollar. I don't know, Kimar, you can tell me if I'm going on the right path or not.
Um, yeah, you're actually correct. But you could finish your point, and then I would explain
I,
after.
I'm I'm finished. I'm finished. You can go ahead.
Yeah. Well, you are correct in pointing out about the strength of the dollar. In terms of countries, let me use for example, Massy. Now, Massy is a regional brand, regional company, and Massy has Massy outlets all through the Caribbean, basically. No, the strength for the Barbados dollar is more than, and you're correct in saying it's more than Trinidad, it's more than Jamaica, is higher than majority of the most competitive economies in the Caribbean, notwithstanding the countries that have the US dollar as their dollar. We're speaking about countries with indigenous currency, so the TT dollar, Jamaica dollar, Guyanese dollar, XYZ. No, Masino, when they are buying their goods from other markets, obviously would use the Barbadian dollar as it has more strength than the TT dollar or the Jamaican dollar or the Ghana. But their business model then allows them to buy all of their foreign goods with Barbadian dollars, and then they would distribute through the Caribbean, with Barbados being like the central distribution hub for the goods when they come from whichever part of the world that they would have used the Barbadian foreign currency to buy. So that is the strategic advantage that Barbados has in the Caribbean because of the strength of our dollar. Right now, on the flip side, it is highly possible no uh for a Barbadian to go into the other markets. So this is the uh opposing argument to what you put forward. They are allowed to go into other markets and still be competitive and still could potentially have more return because the currency is way less. So you're allowed to consume more if you have the stronger currency. So remember, the strength of the Barbadian currency, we then have to buy US dollars to then shop in Guyana, shop in Trinidad, shop. So we don't trade each other's currency. So when you use the strength of the Barbados dollar to buy uh, US dollars, obviously you would have more in pocket than somebody else from Trinidad, Guyana, St. Vincent, uh, whatever. So then when you do go invest, you'll have a lot more to consume with a lot more potential for a higher return on investment, right? So if you look at the future though, right, and I think you also sent me this chart, so I would uh, not immediately, but I want to at some point in time discuss the foreign reserves of Barbados, right? And to remind persons that the foreign reserves of Barbados are borrowed. Right? So the last set of foreign reserves that we had, Melissa, this was just before the government changed. When the government changed, we stopped paying uh, debt and we stopped paying foreign bills and everything. And then we went on a complete borrowing spree from 2018 till now. So all of the foreign reserves that we had right now are borrowed, all 2 billion and some or whatever. That's not our money. That was money borrowed from the IMF, IDB, XYZ, whatever, right? Um, the users of foreign exchange, Melissa, it's not necessarily me and you, right? It's not necessarily me and you. We don't necessarily do the importing, right? So the users of the foreign exchange, more than likely, uh, will be the government in itself, and uh, say for example, much larger companies like the banks and other people who would need our foreign exchange stored at the central bank to be able to do transactions. So when you hear the talk about foreign reserves, Melissa, and the Barbados dollar, and we have all these reserves compared to the Barbados dollar, um, majority of the population do not have access to the foreign currency anyhow, right? So in simple terms, basically, the strategic position of Barbados's dollar due to one structure allows us to still be a leader in the Caribbean. But on the flip side, because of our appetite for foreign exchange, Melissa, we in turn have to go under what they call internal devaluations as opposed to external devaluations, where the internal devaluation rapidly increases the inflation in the economy. So the internal devaluation will see you pay more in the supermarket for food. It would see you paying more for gas, right? Hence the gas tax at the pump. It will see you paying more in housing and property tax, right? It will see you paying garbage and sewage tax. It will also see you paying high levels of income tax. So supposedly higher levels of corporation tax, but that was not the case in Barbados. They actually lowered ours. So it shows you where the government's policy is more accommodative to the business sector, right? As opposed to wider society and the average consumer. But I think I've spoken enough there on that point. Yeah.
Well, I know you mentioned you guys can hear me, right? Beautiful. Okay. But I know you mentioned the dollar's value and so forth. Right? Just for the obviously the purpose of the educating the listeners. What are some? I know we're going a little bit off topic, but I know this is your thing. In terms of the factors, what devalues or devalues the dollar? What factors can devalue the dollar?
Well, in terms of devaluation, there are two types of devaluations, which would be internal devaluation and external devaluation. Now, when negotiating with the IMF, devaluation is always an option. Right? So to correct macroeconomic imbalances in an economy and a country agrees to enter into a structural adjustment program with the IMF, there's usually specific economic factors that are out of control. Right? So those economic factors, Ramon, could be high public debt, large fiscal deficits, meaning that the government is spending way more in interest than usual, and they're spending way more in expenses than earning in revenue, and therefore there's a massive we call it negative balance. Right? Um, Low foreign reserves is also an option when you run out of foreign currency to be able to pay bills, and that is the main reason for an external devaluation, right? So, because we are Barbadians, we're going to speak about devaluation of the Barbados dollar within a context or within a box, right? Because I don't want persons to misquote me or to say that I say that the dollar is going to, but we're just going to paint the circumstances around how it could happen, right? Now, if Barbados runs out of foreign currency, right? Say for example, the foreign reserves go down to $100 million or 1 week of cover, right? The government then is forced to approach the commercial banking sector, right? Because the commercial banking sector is a legal trader of foreign currency along with the government. So there's the central bank and the government, and then there's the commercial banking sector, and then there's the hotel sector, who's also a legal trader of foreign exchange, right? So if the government runs out of foreign currency, the government would then, before the devaluation, they would go to the commercial banks and say, well, we don't have XYZ, and we're going to need to borrow XYZ in foreign currency to be able to starve off, uh, right, starve off whatever is coming. Now, the commercial banks then have the power to negotiate with the government as to how much they are going to sell that foreign currency to the government at. So right now, the rate is 2 to 1. So therefore, the government is not within the commercial bank's headlock. When you run out of foreign reserves now, and you have to go to the commercial banks, then you're in the commercial bank's headlock. So then the commercial bank say, well, look, government, I am going to sell you my foreign currency as opposed to 2 to 1. Y'all gonna pay 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. You understand? Like, this is away from the regular exchange rate of 2 to 1. The commercial banks will then say to the government, I charging you 7 or 8 to that one, right? And if the government has no option and they take it, basically, Ramon, that's so you could end up with devaluation on top of the fact that the country is probably indebted to a point on the foreign currency side where they can no longer afford to add additional foreign debt. Right? You can't borrow from the central bank nor the national insurance, and therefore all funding resources of the government have dried up. And the only other option would be to weaken the currency peg, because currency pegs are only weakened to allow influx of investment. Come on. So when you weaken the peg and you devalue the dollar from 2 to 10 or to 20 or whatever, you're only doing that to make the dollar cheaper, to allow big investors to come in and buy your debt at the discounted rate, to allow for massive inflows of investment. So that is the basic reason for devaluation and how a devaluation could happen in a country where the indigenous currency is no longer viable, and obviously it will not be traded outside of the country. And for a country like Barbados, right now, that is still very much barred from international capital markets because of Barbados' decision to default on our foreign debt. For the first time ever in the history of Barbados, right? Barbados has defaulted on our foreign debt for the first time in our history, and we are banned from international credit markets. For that reason, Ramon, for example, if Barbados runs out its IMF credit card, then the options are very, 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 very slim for Barbados to borrow from, and therefore we're going to have to increase taxation to make up the shortfall, or therefore go after uh, a currency devaluation as an option.
Right. So as you can see, I'm having some technical difficulties with my video. You can hear me? You can hear me though? Kemar?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, beautiful. All right, you can fix the video shortly. So with all these companies, new companies coming in and so forth, right? And we have a case where people are going out. There's a brain drain. The question remains, who are being hired at these particular companies who are coming in to set up their businesses in Barbados? Are they bringing their own people? Because again, with 60% of people going out and so forth, who is being hired in these particular roles? That's the question. That is the question.
What is it? Yeah, you want to take that one?
I guess it comes down to the sector. In the hotel industry, the higher jobs are basically being given to foreign labor. Most of the managers of the hotels are foreigners. Um, you see, like the porters and what's not being local labor. Um, so it depends on the industry. You got the in the hospital, you got the nurses coming in from Ghana, and you have some persons here who are nurses that are struggling to find a job. So I think you're seeing a bit of both foreign and local. But I'm still going to say that you're still seeing more local persons being employed than foreigners.
Yeah. Well, let us look at some actual events to answer Ramon's question. We have Chinese companies, uh, and as you guys know, there's no such thing really as the Chinese private sector per se. It's merely Chinese government.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you have the Chinese government setting up many operations in Barbados, and they also import Chinese labor to go along with these projects. We have Guyanese construction companies entering into the housing market, and they too also hire a lot of Guyanese workers and other regional workers who come in the country on the CARICOM skill movement program. Right now, what's interesting about the labor markets for the Chinese construction and the Guyanese construction is that the wages that are paid to these workers that come in are often cheaper, right? So I've also heard rumors of many of the workers on the Chinese construction projects to be uh s- prison labor, right? So that drastically cuts costs. So
Really?
yeah, so the host government who's receiving the help, they will have to look for large sums of money to pay locals to be able to do the work. The Chinese government will usually bring in the workers. And for those persons who may not be on the prison program and working, they would work on these projects for a substantially spit rate. Other laborers and masons and carpenters and the like, coming in to work on the construction companies, they also work for substantially less than the average Barbadian worker would, right? So if you have situations where the labor component for Barbadians are significantly higher as opposed to the labor component for importing workers, the shrewd businessman is going to take the cheaper way out. And an example of that could be the fact that when you go to a gas station nowadays, most of the gas station workers are Jamaicans in Barbados, right? At one point in time, that was not so, but in only this year, last year, just around COVID, we started to see a massive influx of Jamaican workers at the gas station, and we're also seeing a massive influx of uh, Jamaican and other regional sex workers as well, right? Who work on the streets, playing the trade of prostitution, and we also see them play the trade in terms of clubs and other recreational activity. Now, my question here really is, right, when it comes to these labor markets and even in the agricultural market, a lot of regional people will come into Barbados and do things that the average Barbadian deer would not do to make money, right? So then the culture factor uh, becomes a thing, along with other labor practices that Barbadians are not necessarily accustomed to, which then, if you have a corrupt government, foreign labor practices could then be allowed to take root in the society. So that's not necessarily a question, but more observations. Yeah. So Ramon is not back yet, so maybe you have to conversate until he gets back.
But yeah, I agree with you. Especially in agriculture, you will mostly see a lot of Guyanese workers at most plantations in Barbados, and a lot of them sleep on the plantations as well. And the pay that they receive, I know many Bajans for sure ain't nearly working for the amount of money that these Guyanese work for. So, as you rightly said, the standards that other people are willing to work for, Bajans aren't working for. So, are we pushing ourselves out of jobs because others are coming and are willing to accept labor standards that we aren't willing to work under? Um, how 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 could this issue be solved?
Well,
Because I know we have labor laws. We already have laws to govern the workforce and what's not. So how could this be combated?
well, in Barbados, Melissa, the labor unions have been infiltrated, and the labor unions have co-signed on to the government's agenda, and therefore not stepping up to be representing on issues like this. Now, it
Mm,
actually favors the head of, because I don't want to get political. I'm trying to stick to policy,
economic.
but
Hmm.
yeah, but I got to kind of come across the road here now. I say that particularly the Barbados Workers Union and the National Union of Public Workers, which are the two larger unions in Barbados, have shown signs of being in bed with the private sector and government against the wider interests of the population on many labor issues. Now, since the head of the Barbados Workers Union, who's a member of the government, an actual sitting MP of the government, also benefited significantly from sponsors from the private sector. So what you see happening for the heads of the unions are like vouchers, their passes, and other benefits that are given to the heads of the unions from the private sector. So on one day you will see the head of the union and they're representing for the workers, but then the next very day you see the head of that union coming into the hotels, restaurant, eating ham, lamb, and jam and lobster every day for 5, 6 days a week, and they're supposed to be representing you. You see them at the poolside with their families on weekends for their passes, jumping, So there's conflict of interest clearly currently with the head of the Barbados Workers Union right now, who's a member of the current government, the head of the National Union of Public Workers. Now, I have not heard much about what they stand for as of late, but from what I've noticed in terms of their relationship with the private sector, they too have also co-signed onto the agenda to be more pro-business, a lot less in favor uh, of workers, because these same businesses then turn around and provide campaign financing. And it is very
Mm-hmm.
clear that some of the same businesses who probably finance the campaign of the General Secretary of the Barbados Workers Union, she's probably representing some of them against the interests of the workers. So that's the conundrum we face in Barbados, Melissa.
Go ahead, Ramon.
Of late, but technology failing me. But I apologize to viewers and the rest of panelists, right? But obviously with all of that going on, well, all that was said, one of the impacts, obviously, when I got the youth now feel as though there is no hope, as Melissa rightly said, right? And this is no excuse at all for crime and violence, none at all. However, the youth or the younger people, they need employment. They need something to do with their hands. They need, I call them distractions, but they need gainful employment. And obviously, there is a correlation between, again, this is not me encouraging crime and violence or me accepting it, but one of the correlations is between poverty, struggling, and you can't feed the children, etc., 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 and high levels of crime. Right? There is a correlation, right? And I believe that again, and I keep saying this, so I keep drilling in. We need more opportunities for the younger people um, in Barbados, because it's still a task, obviously, to go overseas as well. Too, they have to then adapt to the new environment over there and stuff like that. So they can become a little discouraged over there as well too. So we need to find some more opportunities in Barbados in a serious way, right?
Well,
So
well,
that's my take on
Ramon,
it.
some could argue that some could argue that yes, opportunities have been provided. Well, we give people ash work, sweeping up the ash. We put people as cool monitors to take temperatures for COVID-19. We give people work in the job stations. You know, we give $100,000 football program. People could say, yeah. So when you say opportunities, I want you to be more specific about what type of opportunities you're looking for these. Not I you can't just bring it down to young people now, because middle aged people in the 40s and 50s are also looking for work.
Yes, yes.
Okay? So what do you say to those groups as well?
Yeah. Well, I would still say that those are young people as well too. I would still say so, right? I would still really, really say that. Now, a lot of these opportunities were temporary, little small opportunities, etc., etc., etc. If you have a young child, I know it doesn't take just only a year, or you don't have to support that child for just a year, right? I know that for a fact. So gainful employment is necessary. It's necessary, right? Permanent employment, very very necessary. Because I know a person that he had one minute he had one of those particular roles, the NCC, I believe it is, and then a couple months after that, and that was it for him. And he had a young child. He had a young child, and he still has to survive after that. Right? So he bought into that particular, I would say, source of income. He bought into that. But then 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 months after, that was it where he's concerned. So, I'm talking about permanent employment. I'm talking about, having a career where these people are concerned, right? I'm talking about a proper career, a proper opportunity, not a political opportunity only, right? A permanent opportunity. Don't care who you support, you know, who you support doesn't matter. You have the skills, you have the know-how, provide those type of permanently, as permanent as possible.
So, are there any you said in your introduction to alternate views that you offer life solutions.
Yeah, for sure.
So, could you, tell me, tell Melissa, tell the alternate viewers, no, offer us a solution to life.
I mean, what I can tell you is that what I personally do, most people can't do it in a serious way. There are people from all other careers would have gone into what I personally do, right? So it is a situation where you meet people every day, you sell yourself every day, So it's a situation where it is not um, a, a case where it's for a total genius. All that needs to go on is that you build relationships and
Which field?
yes,
This?
pardon me.
Which field is this? Are you speaking about?
Okay, this is an advisor, right? This is an advisor. So you just give your
Economic.
knowledge and share knowledge with
Uh,
people, and then they
economic advisor, climate advisor. What?
sales advisor. So it's for life solutions, life insurance. You have retirement plans, etc. Right. So my thing is it's very beneficial. Show them the benefits, communicate the benefits to the particular party, the potential client, and they would then decide, this thing benefits you, etc., etc. So that's an avenue because and young people always need it. They're always bright eyed and bushy tailed, and it is one of the most challenging yet rewarding careers you can possibly have. Really and truly. You sell yourself every day. You go, even if you go to an interview, that's basically selling yourself. So it comes natural. It comes natural. And as I said, it doesn't take a genius. It doesn't take a genius. All people from all walks of life. They just communicate what they know, and then the person obviously moves to suit from there. Right. So that
Yeah.
is an avenue, obviously, that you can look at.
Well, Melissa, what is your life's solution?
Uh, um, I think we really need to focus on finding job opportunities for persons, as you said, not just young, but all ages. Um, we have an issue with affordable housing. We have issues of high cost of living. We have issues of competitive wages. We have issues of equal opportunities. So I think we need to start with offering equal opportunities in all sectors, offer more competitive wages to individuals. I'm sure if you offered a better payment to the nurses, the doctors, the masons, the carpenters, a lot of them would be more enthusiastic getting out every morning and going to work. And you won't find them leaving the country looking for better pastures. Um, but I really think that the issues of affordable housing and cost of living are two major factors contributing to people leaving the island. Um, I've had conversations with persons who are working, like let's say for like $4,000, $5,000 a year, sorry, a month, and they still can't afford to buy a home. How many home and Kemar, you're in real estate. How many houses out there are available? Let's say for $300,000. Are there any?
Jeez.
So I think we really need to look at offering affordable housing to individuals and offering competitive wages. I think that's where we need to start.
Yeah. Well, those are some very great suggestions. Um, Competitive wages, I definitely agree. That's also part of the mandate of the Caribbean Program Studies Institute. That is paying people for adequately for the work they do, based off merit, based off also qualification and technical skill to be able to do jobs. I find that we definitely have too many people who don't know what they're doing, but based off family or friends policy, people usually get jobs and they don't know how to function in those jobs. No, there was an article today in the newspaper which spoke about toxic work environments. That is something that we definitely have to focus on. And Melissa, you also being involved in the work of the family and uh, in single mothers, we also need to take a deeper dive into the to that dynamic as well. Who's participating in the workforce? Are we developing policies for specific groups? So, developing policies to assist single mothers, developing policies to help families. When I say a family, I mean a man and woman family, right? Um, Within the system, of course. And that is not an opinion that is anti anybody or, that is not leaning left or right, but just saying to we need those family structures built in societies, and therefore you need to have targeted investment at being able to sustain families. Now, in parts of America, uh, there are certain welfare programs which say that if a female is receiving assistance, that she cannot have a male living within the house if they live in government subsidized housing. No, a policy like that is, I guess, the state is trying to protect the abuse of its resources, but it's very counterproductive to family, right? So there are situations that occur where mothers end up being single, and mothers then go on to pick up partners uh, who play the role of the father, not necessarily biological. And then you have situations where there are single fathers and women come in and play the role of mother in the family. Right? So as the dynamics of families and the structure of the family in societies change, then you also have to look at the type of work also, right, that is available. So as a policymaker, Ramon or Melissa, once upon a time, you could sit and say, well, we could develop the workforce targeted at men. But the statistics show that majority of the persons who want jobs are women, right? So, Melissa, you will have politicians who will come on the platform and just say, well, we want more jobs
for men, or we want more jobs for women. But if you study the statistics carefully, it could show uh, either or. So that is just my thoughts.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. If you keep looking at the family structure, you can see in a lot of homes the men are leaving and leaving the female, the mother, to raise the children on their own. And they not only have to nurture the children, but they still have to go and look for employment to feed the children, to pay the bills and what's not. So you said to look at legislation. There are females living in a home. They don't have any persons to collect their children or evenings from school. So an example of legislation to help with families and single mothers and single fathers, where you can allow the mother or the father to leave work a little bit early, to go and collect the children and what's not. Maybe you could encourage them to get work a little bit earlier as well, so that they can still have the same 8 hours. But yeah, what jobs are out there for single mothers or single fathers that are offering competitive wages?
Coincidentally, you guys mentioned single fathers and single mothers, right? Of late, and it's so coincidental, I have been having conversations with more single fathers, um, which is, it is alarming. It's becoming quite alarming. Most of them, they're communicating that, as soon as the child, obviously, uh, the child was born, that the mother advised, what, I'm dealing with this mother life. I gone from about here, right? So that it was taken back a little bit. It's like, usually, that is
It's
not.
the other way around,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Usually that's not how it goes. So the funny thing about it is, of late, and it's so coincidental, you guys mentioned it here in this forum. I've been hearing a lot of fathers, and raising the children alone. I don't know if there's a dynamic shift, and I hope it is not. But I
There
am
is,
hearing
there is.
there is a dynamic shift. Okay, right? So,
If you
mhm.
go around in communities, you will
Mhm.
see um you will see, sadly, more women on the blocks nowadays, smoking and drinking,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
than men. So the family dynamic is changing.
Because I'm asking if there's a case that Stella wanted to get her groove back. That's the that's the question. Yeah, because after the child was born, she said, "I deal with this here. I deal with this here." So you know what? Again, I am hoping that there's not a serious dynamic shift. And I think it was Kemar that mentioned welfare. Right now, I agree obviously with assisting who needs assisting. Right, but I've I've witnessed an actual extreme case of welfare in another country, to the point where uh, having a normal job is not, you don't get the substantial amount of you know you don't get to obtain uh, any of the housing and so forth, because of the lack of money, and how small the salary is compared to somebody, believe it or not, who is on welfare. And some of the people on welfare, they are able-bodied. You understand? So the welfare system in that particular country caters more, or you can obtain more on welfare than having a normal job. So you must be careful, obviously, the amount of welfare and so forth that you provide, and to who you prefer that provide that welfare to. That's another thing.
You said that you're making more money collecting welfare than from a job.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what they do, they give you a huge 2 bedroom apartment, a huge, and people who are working a normal job cannot afford that. But the person at that point in time, they had children, fair enough, but they were able-bodied, they were able-bodied, and they were able to they were given a 2 bedroom, a huge 2 bedroom apartment, right, on welfare, and someone who was working, day in day out. Yes, they're able-bodies as well too, sweat, tears, God, but whatever, they cannot, they're struggling to find a 2 bedroom flat, right?
Yeah,
So that is, yeah, that is kind of one of the experiences I just wanted to share with these viewers. So it become
yeah.
in
But
terms of the amount of welfare and so forth, it got to be an intricate balance where that is concerned.
thank you very much, Ramon. You opened up a very interesting conversation. We are
Yeah,
not going to let that go. So
yeah.
that's where we're going to start back. But in the meantime, you have a lot of fans in the comments that would love to hear you shout them out. So I mean, there are so many. We know we let them get away. So
Mm.
sorry, to ask you to go back to the top.
No,
Um,
no, you gotta do that. You gotta do that. I love it. Not a problem. Nah, for sure. Yeah, man.
and just say good evening to some people.
Yeah.
Um, so we're gonna try to get them up on the screen. So we treat our audience special on here. We acknowledge the alternate viewers. So from Melissa and from Ramon and from myself, we express gratitude for
Right.
everyone all the alternate viewers who take the time out to come on to the program. Um, so let us go. So we could shout out the
All right.
view.
We start with square four. Looking forward to hearing these young and brilliant minds. Thank you very much. Especially Kemar, the top guy. The top gun. Yeah, for sure. His thinking. Man, he did two lectures tonight, man. It was fantastic. I'm sure he would have heard two
Yeah,
fantastic lectures, man. So that,
yeah,
all right.
yeah. But yeah, we read Sheepdog.
Yeah.
I read Sheepdog's thing, but he said something else. So
All right. Key objective is to look after one's own society before outside it. I recommend the Irish film The Field Before Globalism. Caught a hole in Ireland hinted may take 2 viewings or more to appreciate. All right, Mark, no problem. Yeah, I remember your name. And the funny thing about it is, I am awful with names, but I remember it. All right. It's me. Good evening, all. Blessed love talk day. Yeah. Janine Busher. All right. Bless up, Janine. Wendy Ford Griffith. Good night. Good night to you, Wendy. Lemuel Tull. Yes. A regular viewer. Esther Blue, blessed good night, everyone in the alternate views. Good night to you, to Esther. Big up yourself. Camilla Lewis, I hope I have the name correct. Hotek, not too sure what that means, but blessed love to you. Calvin McKenzie, good evening from Atlanta. Big up, the global. Heath, I think Heath Life, I believe that's the pronunciation. Good evening to everyone. Good evening to you, Heath. Mildred Ben, good night to all. Good night to you. Pleasant good night. It's me. This show, sorry, is growing. Good to see the youngsters taking charge. Bless up for sure. It's me. Wendy Ford Griffith. Good night, everyone. Good night to you too, Wendy. Alicia Franklin. Good evening to all. Good evening to you too, Alicia. Manish? Manish?
Manasseh,
I think Manasseh?
Manasseh,
Is that
yeah.
yeah? King? All right, Manasseh. Oh, good night. Sorry for butchering your name. Good night to you. FX trading, baby. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to you as well. Judith Ann Clark. Good night, everyone. Good night to you, Judith. Serlene Clark, top lady. Good evening to you, Serlene. Serlene Clark, this points to the need of young workers in all fields to network more. This called for leadership to be strengthened among them. Fair enough. Right. Peter King, good afternoon, Barbados. Good afternoon to you too, as well, Peter. In the Stuart, good night, Stuart, the Kemar Stuart, Chiefs numbers. I got enough fans. Tyrone Green. All right, Tyrone Green. Good night to you, man. Bless up. Calvin McKenzie, one of the main problems is that young people with tech skills, finance, etc., are not taught to be innovative. They can form conglomerates and form tech companies, etc. Be creative. All right, Calvin. Flighty? Oh, dear, I hope I have that new. Anyhow, Mr. Vaughn, I would hope it's a Mr. All right. Good night to Kimar and other hosts. Calvin McKenzie, what is the emphasis on finding jobs? Create them. Use your skills to form companies. All right, top guy. For sure. Noel, Barbados was the only educated Caribbean country that never ever tried to produce anything but a bunch of politicians and lawyers. All right, Noel. Sean Cool, Credit Union as well got hacked. All right, thanks for the info, Sean. Marlene Knight, good night, Kimar. Keep up the good work. Good night to you, Marlene. Certified Sugars. Good night, Kimar and panel. Good night to you. Sugars. They love pineapple, Pina. Glad to hear from you, Kimar.
Yeah, but I think that's most of everybody who,
All right, all right, all right.
Wendell,
Kendall Davis, yeah. Wendell Davis, bless up. Okay, I will not even try to pronounce that yet. One time coming soon, the people will wake up. You gotta tell me the pronoun. Well, show me the pronunciation of that name. Peter King, Kimar is an old guard.
yeah, well,
Ah,
this is funny.
mm.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you very
Cool.
much.
Man, that's so simple.
Yeah, Square for saying good night to the viewers of Ireland. Good night to everybody in Ireland. Saying good night to the viewers of Africa. Good night to everybody in Africa. So we made some points earlier. No, since you're on families, I want to touch on the speaking brain drain, and I want to look at the role of the family and how families play a role in brain drain. Now, I also want to link the family to that of substance abuse. Right? Substance abuse. Now, in my younger years, we had a lot of men leaving the household because of addiction to alcohol. And we had quite a few men who were functional drunks, right? Who would earn their monies and splurge their monies on alcohol, rum, and became drunks, and that caused breakdowns and dysfunction in families. Um, we had many a divorce over the abuse of alcohol. We had many children living in abusive homes because of the abuse of alcohol. And we also had children leaving Barbados and participating in brain drain and trying to escape families that are plagued by substance abuse. Right? So I find that we do not discuss the degradation of society from the perspective of the abuse of alcohol, right, by families, and how it contributes to the psychological state of young people and children who then grow into adults, right, which then force these adults to seek greener pastures over and abroad. So glad to have Melissa back because I really wanted her opinion on this one.
On substance abuse in homes. Well, nowadays is not just alcohol. You have males abusing marijuana, abusing cocaine, they're abusing mollies, all kinds of drugs they're using now. Um, and they're so caught up in the drugs that even when they come home, they can't even interact with their children. And you rightly said that some of them end up being in an abusive home because and you find that the abuse comes when, let's say, no, the female in the home is constantly nagging or interrogating the male about the drug use. And there are not many addicts that admit that they're addicted. So they get agitated, they get angry, they get violent, and they lash out. Some it may become physical, the abuse may be verbal, and then suppose the children in the home are seeing these activities. Then what message are you sending to the children? Are you teaching the children that violence is the way to go? So you rightly say some individuals end up leaving not just the home but leaving the country, and the families end up being torn apart. You end up seeing children being raised by the mother alone or children being raised by the father alone, and it has a negative economic impact on the home, leaving one individual having to pay all the bills, send the children to school, etc. So substance abuse does have a negative impact on families, and it does affect the brain drain.
Males, some males and females as well too. As Melissa rightly mentioned, females get any act in a serious way too. And that is a very very interesting question because we talk about lack of job opportunities and so forth, but to look at it from that angle, that is very important as well. Some people run from their issues. They run from the issues at home, because I'm certain in a lot of cases, right? If you have a decent home environment, you love being there, etc. That even if an opportunity presents itself, right? Yes, you're going to think about your family. You know what? I could obviously send back home some money for my family. So, but in terms of leaving them, you're going to think twice, right? You're going to think twice or three times, right? So that is extremely, I think, extremely important point, important discussion there, right? The family setup, and in terms of obviously the substances and so forth, some people, they use it obviously to get in a different zone, be able to relax, the drugs, marijuana, Molly and X and Percocets, all the and lean, all those type of drugs that they're using now. It's not just marijuana now. It's a different level, right? And that's to get obviously a particular high. I'm depressed, I want to just get in a zone and forget all about it. However, when then obviously it wears off, you're back to square one. The issues strike you right back in your face once again, and you know what you do? You can continue to use it, and some people obviously become aggressive, etc. and obviously that impacts the home in a serious way. And there can be a domino effect of that as well too. You know, my parents, I grew up seeing my parents, you know, fighting, etc., etc., etc. You take it on to the next generation, then that generation takes it on to the next generation. But in some cases, you know, some people say to themselves, you know what, I grew up in that sort of environment. Really and truly, I don't want that. I don't want that there for myself, right? And they do a full 360, you know. So that could happen as well too. But in a lot of cases, you know, people do as they see, and the generation it continues to go generation after generation after generation. Right? So,
Yes.
and that can definitely impact the farm.
Yes. But I'm glad you went down the line of generations. Um, right now we have a crime situation impacting uh I would say the below 30s, teens to 30s, where a lot of young men are committing crimes, in society. Um, but that's one point. Now, let me say, got a couple of points were raised I want to respond to. I I am a liberal on marijuana and marijuana use. Um, I could explain my liberalism is not total free for all, puff puff down Barbados. That's not what I'm saying, right? But I am a liberal when it comes to that. I am a liberal to the sense that we in Barbados have followed the international world in attempting to develop a marijuana market in Barbados. No, the use of marijuana has been outlawed in Barbados for eons, and you had many families being destroyed because of persons being hauled before the courts. Um, I myself got myself in a fracas with the law about marijuana. Not that it happened the way it was explained in the media, but I think there's a story that should be told about it. And how in Barbados, the state has destroyed the lives of many because of the criminalization of marijuana. Now, we sought to develop a medicinal marijuana industry, right? But still, you have young people in Barbados with criminal records because they were held with 5 bags or 10 pieces or whatever. So, if we're speaking societal change and you're discussing marijuana, right, you should first look to repair, right? Repair the lives of those persons you first damaged and bring some clarity and healing to their families who would have went through the embarrassment of having their offspring put up there, because it's not a good feeling. They put you up there, everybody reading saying that you're a criminal or whatever, but still you have big shots being called, people trading marijuana every day legally across the world, making millions and billions of dollars. Barbados seeking to get into the action and trying to develop the medicinal area, but what is happening is that they're leaving the people out of it, and as opposed to breaking the cycle of criminalization and exclusion, the government continued that process, right, of exclusion, set up the industry that only a large set of investors could get into to developing the industry, and leaving out all of those fellas that you know sell marijuana. Because let's be real about it, there's a large population of young men in Barbados who have to sell marijuana for a living, right? And it's not that they just decide they can do it, it is a way of life that they were taught because of environments like the family, right? and they are brought up in these environments. So I am saying, if we want to fix part of the degradation, right, and do a lot of repairing of the potential of young men in society, right, potentially impacting the crime situation, I believe the state needs to focus on marijuana, have a frank discussion with John Public, right? John Public about its usage, both the good and bad about it, right? Because again, we're not promoting, like we're not promoting well, things like that. But we're looking at the fact that large countries around the world are invested into the business, making billions, creating jobs, creating medicine, right? Creating the cottage industries. But in Barbados, we continue to destroy lives, right? And destroy families. So I'm just saying here, right, from a objective perspective, right, as opposed to creating a small window of opportunity for the investor to come in and trade and then do like what they did with the sugarcane. Come on, come and give the average boy on the block a job for $350 coming and working on the marijuana farm. Right? So I know this language and the way how we are putting it across. This is alternate views, but we have to speak the reality of where Barbados is at. And if we intend to enact change, come on, for the betterment of society, these are things that need to be spoken about.
Right. So I just want to say, glad you mentioned that point. Right. You talk about brain drain. Go back to brain drain again. Right. Somebody with at least one offense uh, in that nature. Right. One offense. You know that their record is stained for a very very long time in Barbados. The only option they have is to go overseas after that. So we talk about brain drain. We said the opportunities that, but circumstances like that, warrants a mention. One offense, you're caught with a 5 bag or whatever you call it, 10 piece or whatever piece, and you're convicted. Obviously, you go to court, etc. Your face and name all over the paper, all about the place, right? And it is going to be difficult after that to get a job. So the only thing you gotta do is skate to a different country, So we're talking brain drain here. So I'm glad you made that point, Kemar.
Yeah, Melissa, you?
Yeah, with the medicinal industry, with the high buy-in amount that you have to come in with to enter the industry, you're basically leaving the industry in the same hands of the rich, and not the so-called poor person. Um, and if you're doing the medicinal industry, why not just legalize the entire marijuana industry? Regulate it. It can also be used for other stuff besides medicine. I've visited places and seen oils made from marijuana, soaps. So it could be used as a manufacturing industry as well to produce soaps and oils. Um, you spoke about the criminal records. Yeah, why keep this stain on somebody's name for the rest of their lives? If you're looking if you're looking to start the medicinal industry, why put blockages in somebody's way when you can basically liberate them and give them an opportunity to progress in society? That's my take on it.
Yeah. Well, we're seeking to deconstruct the colonial mindset, co-host, and that will take some energy, uh, in attempting to bring about the alternative view in society. Um, if you look at the age groups and the different opinions and age groups on it, it's only proper that the different societal groups will have a say on its use. No, we need to look at different ideas. Right? And we're also speaking about creating work, and we're also creating opportunities. Like I said, not just for young, but for everybody right now to earn uh, income. So as opposed to focusing only on the traditional public service job, uh, an industry like the marijuana industry could potentially play a role. There was some attempt at it, um, but because of whatever regulatory issues, it has not gotten off uh, the ground. So we are not necessarily looking at this thing from the commercial element. We're looking at it from the societal element and how we could deploy resources to heal families and to create more, I would say, more functional good beings in society. And part of it is to deconstruct stigmas in a forceful way and to have these persons reintegrated back into mainstream society as opposed to banishing the young when they make mistakes as being non-productive for the rest of their lives here in Barbados. So you can stretch that as far as the total criminal justice reform and how you rehabilitate offenders back into society, because every man will probably need to put his hand to the plow to work hard enough to ensure that Barbados could repay uh, these large debts that are going to become
Hmm.
due uh, very soon. No, we had such a very good discussion um, this evening, uh, but I want to. Wait, Pedro is saying that it can only be for the local market. Banks are not on board. Right. Uh, well, that's true. But we are looking at new and innovative ways, right, to do business. There are banks, and the use of banks are not the only way to do financial transactions in the modern day. Um, there's crypto, and there's r- rubble, and a whole host of other financial technologies that are completely legal and regulated by the authorities to be able to do transactions for such purposes. It's just that the government has not gone far enough in doing its research and analysis to be able to ascertain that and get the uh, industry up and fully functional. So I do understand your point, Pedro, but you know we moving forward thinking on it. But as I was saying, guys, I had a very good discussion with you tonight, and I think I learned a lot from you both about the being drained issue and different from both sides. Um, so we all can agree on something. We want the best for Barbados, and we want the best for Barbadians who choose to live and stay in Barbados. Now, In St. Kitts, they implemented a policy where they decided to hire a whole host of younger public servants as a policy, right? And give them the top jobs and leadership positions and X, X, X-Ray, etc., etc., etc. And there's a lot of young people populated in their public service. So, in all, do you think that it is time that the policymakers make a bold decision and say that it is the policy of the government of Barbados that we will be intentionally uh, giving preference to people who could put in a much longer time of service, therefore income tax collection for the government, you know, potential increases, national insurance benefits potential increases, much like how St. Kitts did it. Do you think that is this time now that the government says to the young people of Barbados and to the youth, we've promised you time and time and time again we're gonna do something for the young people of Barbados. So here's what we're gonna do for you. You think it's time for that?
Yeah, I mean, for the future, I hope that they would have thought, the government would have thought about succession plan before, and obviously now is the time. They must have thought about the aging population in terms of the aging workforce. They must have thought about that. So it's time. The time is now. Really, and I still think there must be a balance. Whether you want to do 60-40 in favor of the younger people, even a 70-30, because I still think you need some older people in the ranks giving guidance, some useful older people in the ranks, not the ones that would discourage or would say, well, this is how we do it all the time. So what you want to change now? Some useful older people to guide the younger people. But the time is now. The future is with the younger people, and if you call it a risk, if you call it a risk, it is one that everything is a risk. Everything is a risk in life. So, but give the steering wheel now more so to the younger people. As I said, you still need that balance. You must have that balance to guide people who would motivate, all the people who would motivate and encourage the younger people. You need the balance though, but the time is now. The time is now. They're the future. And you mentioned obviously, they're going to have a longer time in the system, and we talked about the growth for the population. A lot of the reason why one of the reasons, sorry, why people are not looking to get children like before is because things are really tight and they don't have the income, they don't have that position to have the income, obviously, to look after children, and they're making smart decisions. So if you put younger people who are known to obviously create children, etc., to have children, or in a better health position to have children, then you can get some population growth as well too. That could be a knock-on effect.
Yeah, think
But
about it this way.
to give the younger people, oh, go ahead.
What St. Kitts proposed was like a young professionals program.
Right.
So in a young professionals program, I assume they'd be targeting persons would probably going to university or community college, right? To say the least. Say for example, or sixth farm, something to the most. And you say to these persons, we're going to offer you a job. Uh, we're going to offer you subsidized housing. Allow it, make it easy for you to have a mortgage. Um, we are going to, offer you tax break as well. We're going to offer you silly shopping cards that you could get certain discounts. specific places, whatever, you know, and you offer it to, as I say, like young professionals, and you encourage and you give them incentives. Say, for example, you want to increase the population, so if they sign out to the program and they do have a child, you know, per child they will get some type of living stipend to assist with aiding the child, you know. And you have that program and you say to the population, no, you give them that, say, well, this is what we intend to do, you know, for the young population. If you work for the government for about 30 years, you know, you think a program like that sounds attractive?
I think they would think 3 or 4 times before they roll out, before they get a different country, like I said, because after listening to a lot of younger people on the ground and so forth, that is one of the deterrents is the fact that, well, one of the deterrents to stay in Barbados is the fact that, getting a mortgage, I mean, nowadays a vehicle is a little easier now to obtain, but a mortgage is a big thing for the younger people, the house to live in. And that's one of the things that deters them from staying in Barbados. It's difficult, it's very, very difficult as a younger person to get a mortgage, to get some place to lay their head that they will consider. There's a piece of the rock, a piece of the rock, as they would say. So that is one of the things that deters the younger people. So you're absolutely right. I'm gonna look into this kids program a little deeper. It sounds very interesting. Very, very interesting. The other question remains now. Um, the funds needed to do these things. Do we have it, or we are too caught up and occupied in paying back the IMF? That's the other question. Are we in a position financially, economically to do it? That's the question. That's the thing.
You know that it's tax free. You don't pay income tax in St. Kitts.
Wow, 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 wow.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
That's good.
I will learn that this week as well too. Yeah.
Uh, you
So,
know
so,
what?
so
Go
how do
ahead.
they collect taxes?
VAT, corporation tax, the consumption tax. They have more indirect. They're more effective ways to collect tax other than income tax.
And this is the same country that you mentioned last week. Came out of the IMF program successfully.
One of, one of,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
one of them.
Interesting.
Right.
Very interesting.
I actually met a guy this week who was living there, and we had a long talk. And um, I did some work on St. Kitts previously, but it just never came up that it was tax free. It wasn't along those lines. So it was good to know because maybe as a possibility, Barbados could consider exploring the idea of no income tax.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we should look into the systems and the things that St. Kitts implemented to get out of the IMF program and see how we can benefit from it. But this initiative with the young people sounds very, very, very promising and interesting. And it would definitely encourage a lot of young people to stay in Barbados. Um, Affordable housing is something that all of us would need. I find that a lot of young people are living at home longer nowadays than previous years. So it's a very good initiative.
Yeah. The only program that was noticeable was in St. Kitts was the citizenship by investment program. But that is a conversation that I
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that. Yeah.
right. So to sell Barbados' passport is definitely something that's very out there at the moment.
But
Um,
Dominica does it too.
Yeah, but there's a lot of corruption associated with those type of programs.
Yeah.
Uh, and a lot of unsavory persons usually utilize these programs as money laundering hubs and stuff. And Barbados don't need that right now. Well, I guess a carefully measured one could be put to the table for discussion. But that's something that I'm not sure how Barbadians will feel about. I guess there will be a division on some will be for it, some will be against it. But maybe we should do an entire program to ascertain how the public feels about citizenship and investment, and we can look at the successes of other countries, particularly Caribbean countries, who had successful citizenship and investment programs, and see where we go from there. Uh,
But the question that I wanted to ask, when you offer this specific package to the young people, um, and you bring them in the workforce, are you incrementally getting rid of the older folks? Is it something that is done the same time or
no, it's not a case of just getting rid of older folks, or it's not a case of getting rid of older folks at all,
okay.
right? Um, but there's a policy as people retire, you would aim to hire people that are below a specific age group
Okay.
for a period of time, right? So it was not necessarily a lasting policy because you don't want to give the sense of discrimination because there'll be persons who will be seeking to re-enter the workforce and stuff like that. So you do
Mm-hmm.
have to allow special cases. So you can't run it for extensive things to exclude people. Um, but you will try to say for to commit to hiring people who have the qualifications or some idea or experience or whatever into the opportunities who have much longer time at work, right? And therefore that could probably ease the NAS somewhat in terms of having young people contribute to build back up the system so that the persons who are seeking retirement will for sure have funds there when they're going in retirement. So persons will gradually, but in fact, what you can do is to lower the retirement age, right?
Oh, Lord, the retirement age, and do we have programs available for our old people when they go home and do nothing?
No, sorry, right? I just want to um, just interrupt here just for a little bit, right? That's a very good point you made, and I was just you seem to be peeping at what I was going to say next, right? No, the older people as well too. We got to be careful as well too, because the suicide rates for the whole older people pretty high as well too, because as you get older, and
Get
something like,
get lonely.
yes, not only that, but there's a sense of doom and gloom. I am worth nothing now, right? As you get older, what are you really living for? What are you living for? The children gone alone. I ain't got a job. I ain't got an income. Why am I breathing? And this again, ain't me encouraging any type of behavior like that. But the reality is, as you get older, right? Some people have this doom and gloom sense of I am not worth anything anymore. So I'm glad you mentioned the programs available for the older people, because I remember too as well too during COVID, um, there was a situation where in terms of traveling and so forth, there were older people who were taking excursions on the buses, right? They just needed to get out the house, right? So again, we might have to find some programs, obviously, for the older people if we look to do certain things. We still got to make sure we have that type of balance as well.
Put put this into context, someone.
Yeah.
If you lower the retirement age and you embark on a program to say, for example, you wanted to retire all public servants who had 5 years or less more time in the public service, right? And you and this is a suggestion that was put forward by Dr. Delil Warren, the former governor of the central bank. So, say for example, you had 5 years or less in the public service, you would ask those persons if they want to retire early. Right? If those persons opt to retire early, you pay them out their full amount, right? The full payout and everything, right? And allow those persons to go home with capital, right? So then you have a set of senior people who are now at home with a set of capital ready to spend it in the economy, right? So that is really activities that you speak about, right, could then become relevant. So what would a person freshly retired having about, just speculating, 20, $30,000 in the bank, what are they going to spend uh, that money on?
Oh man, you should see they call it that thing that happens every Thursday night.
Q in the
Um,
community. Q in the
man,
community.
Q in the community, bro. Q in the community, boy. But I mean, I just being silly, right? But you're correct. I mean, 20, $30,000. I mean, it's not gonna last ever, but
Very long
it's
term.
still it's doable. It's doable, right? It's manageable. It might be a little bit more than that. But my question is it a situation where, in terms of the fear of lowering the the um the retirement age, in terms of the monies being paid out so soon, because they need more investment before it might be a case where they don't have the funds or the monies to pay out so quickly or so soon. They need more investment long term. Is that the situation, or that could be an impediment to doing that?
Well, Dr. Warren would have suggested to enter into a structural adjustment program with the IMF or one of those institutions to be
Okay.
able to finance it.
Fine, fine. Okay. Cool.
So that's not a bad idea given the fact that we were borrowing for roads and stuff like that, right? So if you borrowing and make sure we borrowed enough money that you can use some of the borrowed money to finance it, you can use tax collection to finance it as well, along with the fact that you're gonna have young people in the service contributing who are not going to draw for another 30, 40 years. Right? So the money will automatically be replenished. Right? So it's not necessarily a major loss on the books that you're going to have per se. And if you use the borrowed money, then you can structure the repayments over time as opposed to having the uh, pay out the large sum one time. So you use the borrowed money, uh, pay out the people, and that's use tax collection and other revenue generating measures to be able to repay the loan, over a time. So the payments coming in from the new young workers who could be asked to pay a slightly higher contribution rate, right? Nothing too drastic, but slightly higher to help recruit the investment much faster. So it's not a loss necessarily on anybody's end.
Okay.
I
I,
think
I
oh, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just saying that the lowering of the retirement age could be done in certain sectors like the service sectors, the police, the fire service, the BDF, sanitation, those kind of sectors. You can definitely look at lowering the retirement age.
If there was a line dancing association, they should champion that charge, because I know that they'll be extremely happy to get outside and get a queue and be able to got some way to spend a thing when they're doing the line dancing and stuff like that. Right? I think we're in a decent position, or they should champion that charge to see if they could get obviously some early retirement. uh, Or look at early retirement more so than anything else. It's stuck. Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, you are hearing Kemar. Kemar is there?
I guess not.
He's stuck, or you're not too sure. I guess he's stuck.
Yeah, you hearing me? No? Are you not hearing me?
What I can the thing about it is he's talking, but I can't hear him.
You can
Yeah,
hear me?
yeah, I can hear him.
You can hear him.
Yeah.
For some reason, I can't hear him.
Yeah. Well, let's mention to him, but let's give his
Oh,
part and comment in a minute.
Okay. Well, it's 9:34 now, Ramon. So you can give your 1 minute wrap up.
yeah, man. Okay. And Kemar, I don't know if he can hear. He can hear me, and the viewers can hear me. I ain't
Yes,
too
we
Yeah.
sure.
can hear you. Yes,
All
we
right,
can.
beautiful. All right, so every single I would say Monday or Tuesday, right? When we say what we can talk about this particular topic, etc., etc. I think to myself everything. How are we going to have an hour and a half conversation? You know, how can we continue to interact and be interactive? And every single Thursday, we're able to carry on a fantastic conversation, right? And this is due to obviously communication between the panel and also the important source as well to the viewers, right? And I appreciate that in a serious way. Right? And I learned so many things while doing this. I appreciate the research, obviously, that we would have to complete to be able to have some form of conversation. And I want to encourage and continue to encourage the viewers to continue to critique, continue to obviously place their comments in the usual section, and continue to have uh, thought-provoking and alternate thought-provoking views, and also ones that would be considered alternate as well too. So thank you very much. I thoroughly appreciate tonight's conversation and obviously the ones before as well too. And thanks to the co-host and the host. Kemar.
You are the host tonight.
Oh yes, yeah, but
Yeah.
no, but I'm the
But
host.
you said an hour and a half, but we actually have to have a
It's
dialogue for 2 hours and a half.
2 hours and a half, right? 2 hours.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
but I just
two
want to
hours.
say that tonight was your first night hosting. You came up with the topic on your own. I just want to say that you did a very, very, very good job, and looking forward to seeing you do it again very, 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 very soon.
Cheers.
Yes. So that's your part and comment, Melissa.
Yes, I'm just giving him his flowers.
Hi. All right. I want to give him some. I don't want to give him flowers, but I may not be. You know.
Appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah. He probably can't even hear me, but um,
Well, yeah, that's true. So you can just wrap it up for the viewers.
yeah. Right. So I will give him some else, not flowers, but nevertheless, he did a very good job leading the discussion tonight. So I want to say I am very proud of Ramon, the host, tonight on Alternate Views. I asked questions, uh, Alyssa asked questions, and he was able to guide us along the way. So we have a champion in the making. Yeah, Pedro is saying give him a cigar.
Yeah, that's appropriate.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you and blessings, Ramon. Melissa, your turn is coming up very soon. So we look forward to uh, hearing you when it's your chance to be in the hot seat.
No problem. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So alternate viewers, thank you very much. Had a very good evening discussing brain drain. Um, a lot of things to think about. We went from Wayne to Ayade to Nate in depth into some topics. We gave some liberal views, we gave some conservative views, but nevertheless, that is the name of the show, alternate views. So thank you all. Thank you to the Caribbean Progress Studies Institute. Thank you to Lifelong Learning, who's the sponsor for tonight's episode. And the topic was quite fitting, Melissa, as we continually learn new
Every week.
information
Yeah, every week.
every week. So Lifelong Learning is the main sponsor of alternate views from today, and Lifelong Learning, as you could see what we do here basically on the program, we have a practical expression through the Human Development Foundation. So thank you to Lifelong Learning. I'm certainly a lifelong learner. I'm sure many of you are here are lifelong learners as well, and will continue in the name of God to uh, represent for the people of Barbados and the Caribbean. So let's say good night to the audience here. Lemuel is saying that 20 or 30 grand can't go anywhere, can hardly repair a house. Certainly can't buy a vehicle.
Very true.
Yeah, well, you have to look at some feedback. So we have to look at what we're offering the public. So good night to you anyway, Lemuel. Spirit for is saying you all ready to run Barbados with the ideas you have to turn this country around. So you have 3 brilliant young people here. Teron is saying this give the young people an early start in building their lives and help support the NAS. That is what we were saying. Teron is saying great job guys, good night and God bless him. Annette Wood is saying good night. Pedro Gemma is saying guidance. Square 4 is saying good night to the panelists on here tonight. Good night. Deal Worrell is saying good night. Good night to you, Deal. Happy to see you, my brother. The Nurse saying serious crickets playing their music as they always do. Uh, Sterling saying thank you and God bless all of you. Keep it up. So, with that being said, that brings us to the end of tonight's program. Alternate views. Kemar Stuart, Ramon Goodman, Malissa Howard. Thank you all, and I will see you guys next week.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Yes. Good night.
Good night.
Oh, Ramon, you could hear?
Just now. Moments
Oh,
ago.
yeah. They told me to give you a cigar for how you hosted the show tonight.
But enough challenges, video wise and audio, but we make it through for sure.
Yes. God bless. God bless.
Yeah, bless the love. Yeah, bye.